All right, guys, well, I'm waiting for parts to come in for the heater box, like a new heater core. I decided, well, I found this half of it, so I'm going to go ahead and start tearing it apart. You can see all this nice blue paint overspray from when they painted it and didn't take it apart. You can see, the rust here starting to form. Rust here. Let me flip it over. Not too bad on the inside. The door is a little rusty, spring here. So I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this whole thing and pop these grommets out that are just so dry rotted. They're just hard as a rock. This one's actually still, pliable. So we're going to finish ripping this gasket out, and then I'm going to go ahead and start either sandblasting it or get my wire wheel on my drill and just start cleaning it up good. Then we'll prime it and paint it up and package it, and put it away until, we actually start working on the car. So just a little wintertime project, because I am going to get the actual car this spring. And we'll bring home actually what Jigsaw is and what we're going to do to Jigsaw. So the project car's name is Jigsaw, by the way. So let me go ahead and disassemble this and we'll start getting her cleaned up. Well, guys, I've run into just a small snag. Everything else so far has come apart, except for this door. That fastener came out no problem, but this one is rusted in solid, so I tried cleaning it up, and I'm going to try to get a pair of vice grips on it. I haven't had much luck so far, so I'm going to possibly have to stick a nut on there and then weld a nut to that, and then get it out. But you also notice here, you can see where this is rusted through in this area, and obviously this here is rusted out too. So we're going to have to clean that up and do just a little touch-up welding in this area, and then we'll just kind of grind it down so it looks good. But you'll never see it, so it won't matter, but we'll clean that up a little better. Let me try a pair of vice grips one more time, and if not, then I'll have to weld a nut on this, like I said, and then, we'll get her out that way. Well, guys, I could get the vice grips on here, but it would not spin for anything. So I have a feeling I'm going to be patching and repairing this. I have a feeling this is going to break off. And anyway, let me take this nut, weld it on there, and we'll see what we got to fix on this. All right, guys, got the nut welded on. You can see I don't know if you can see the smoke, but she is hot. And the good news is it's coming out. So now, there we go. Good. So it looks like the flange is in good shape. So it looks like what I'll just need to do is do a little welding in this area and a little bit right there. So since I got the welder set up, might as well go ahead and clean this metal up, get that all done. We'll clean her up and grind her, and then we'll finish sandblasting all this. So guys, this is where I'm at so far. I actually ran out of welding wire. And by the way, I'm running 030 welding wire, just in case you're curious. I'm running not a very heavy weld setting. And what I basically do is go through like tack, 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 just kind of working my way across. I'm not trying to weld a bead, right? I'm just trying to tack, 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 and kind of build this up. And that's kind of what I've done. So I'll have to come back through here in just a moment, grind that down, clean it up, and then, like I said, I'll touch this area up next here right now that I've got some more welding wire, and then I'll come back and clean it. All right, guys, so I've been sandblasting on this for quite a while. Got her pretty darn cleaned up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a different wire wheel on it, and I'll hit some of these other areas, see if we can't clean it up just a little bit more. There's a few chunks of stuff on here, and you'll notice too that I've got to go back in here and do just a little bit more welding, you know, through the sandblasting. If you notice here, you can see created a couple more holes that need to fill, and then we'll grind those down too. You know, this area turned out really good, so now I need to kind of go back and take care of these. So yeah, it looks like I need to maybe get in here and sandblast this a little better, but overall not too bad. And then we'll now take these other parts and we'll sandblast those up too. Maybe I'll just take a short break from this big hog and, you know, do a couple of these other smaller parts. All right, guys, so to get this off, and you can see I kind of damaged these couple before I figured out a better way, is I came to the back side and basically took a you know, punch and a hammer and kind of knocked these down and out of the way so I could slip this out. And this is a piece of felt. So I'm going to keep this and try to make one so I can, you know, put it back in here, but I want to sandblast this real good and paint it up, you know, for some rust prevention. So before I put a new piece of felt in. All right, guys, so what I did is I used some of my plugs that I use for powder coating to plug up the holes here and for the blower motor, and then I used a grommet to plug that hole. So I just put some shop towels in there so I can prime them. You can see I've got the outer case primed. I sandblasted the squirrel cage there as best I could. We've got it with some rust reformer on it. We'll top coat them all, you know, probably tomorrow night. It says it needs 24 hours before top coating so it can do its thing. You know, you can see I've also got one of the actuators there kind of primed up. So next I'm going to hit it with the rust reformer on the blower motor here and wrap it up for tonight. So that way, like I said, we can top coat tomorrow night and, you know, kind of put this back together. All right, guys, so I am starting to top coat the, you know, the parts now. You know, I used the rust reformer first, obviously after sandblasting and wire wheeling and wire brush, whatever I could to get them as clean as I could. You know, I used the rust reformer and it says to let it go for 24 hours. And now I'm top coating it with this Rust-Oleum Farm and Implement paint, which is supposed to, you know, do good for weather, rust preventative. This is a low gloss black. So I painted, you know, the inside of the housing here, the squirrel cage, you know, the vacuum motor there, you know, the blower motor, little relay set up here, and I got some other parts somewhere else. But what's nice is I'm also using this, which I have a video up, and I'll try to remember to put the link in here. This is an old simple HVAC blower motor, and then you can see I've got a furnace filter on top of it, and it pulls a lot of the fumes and a lot of the oversprays. You can see, you know, a lot of the black here that it sucked in. So I'll try to remember to put a link in here for that.
All right, guys, so I'm going to do a quick little time lapse of rewrapping this wiring harness because, you know, the tape was in pretty bad shape. So I've got a roll of electrical tape, but I'm going to show you a little trick at the end that how to keep this, you know, electrical tape from unraveling when you get to the end. So let me go ahead and wrap this. Like I said, we'll do a quick little time lapse and then I'll show you a little trick. All right, guys, so now that I've got the entire wiring harness all wrapped up, looking much better, you know, now we have this end, right, sticking out. So what I like to do is just take some super glue, drop a couple drops on it. Kind of hard to do this with one hand, but basically put a couple drops on there and then wrap it. So once we wrap it over itself, if you will,
then basically the super glue will not allow the tape to unravel. So that's my little tip or trick. All right, guys, so we've got this part of it all done. The wire harness is now installed. Good thing I had the pictures to remind me again how all the wiring harnesses were routed. Also installed a new grommet here. You know, the original one was all worn out. It's pretty hard and brittle. So we installed a new grommet. And this part of it's done. So now, let's move on to this beast. See what we can do to put this back together and do a couple more repairs to it. Alright guys, so we're going to try to install the heater core first. You can see here's the little bracket, the squiggly one, right? Kind of line up the holes, screw it from the other side, you know, this side up through, and then here's this bracket, same deal. Get a couple of stainless screws, screw it from the other side in, and then we'll have the heater core in, and then we can put this gasket, you know, on right here. And then we'll figure out some of the next things we got to do. All right, guys, so another reason to make sure you have pictures, because I was trying to figure out, again, which vacuum, you know, motor I needed to install. And you can see, now we've got this guy installed. We've got the heater core all installed as well. The one thing, guys, I did do is there's two screws right here and here that install from, you know, this side. I noticed they were coming real close to the heater core, so I cut them off, you know, in the bandsaw real fast. So I just kind of cut the tips off to make sure that they didn't contact the heater core and, you know, put a pinhole in it. Well, guys, I thought I was almost done, but then I was like, where does this go? So I got to looking at the pictures, and I got to take the heater core out because it drops in right down in here. And then you can see this screw here will align with that. So let me take the heater core back out, drop this in, and then put the heater core back in. And then I need to pop rivet this little piece back on to this guy here. And we will do that as well as come back and fix that. All right, guys, so, you know, I had to epoxy this repair. You can kind of see some of the tape and epoxy there where we talked about that earlier. Drilled a hole through it, ran this screw through it. It's holding really nice. And then I also had to drill a hole through here because you can see here's a hole, right? There's a hole, here's a hole, you know, where we mount this to, I'm assuming, the body. So, you know, we got that hole drilled. Now we can run it through and tighten that up eventually. I am reusing this original seal. You know, based on what I see in that kit, I didn't really see this seal as a replacement seal. So we're gonna try to make this guy work. You know, I tried to sandblast this and clean it up best I could. So this part of it was, you know, you can see it's kind of rough through here, but, you know, this is rough, but, you know, we had to do our best to keep this nice. Once we get this all secured, you know, I may have to come in here with a little silicone, you know, and seal this up a little bit better, but we'll deal with that when we go put it in the car. So that part of it's done. Now let's come to this part. All right, guys, so I pop riveted this piece on. You can see there's a difference. I put a backer here to give it a little more clamping force to the head. Should have done it here, but I didn't. But it's not going to go anywhere. If you notice on the inside, because it kind of, you know, pulled them through, I also used a backer washer on both of these, so that way, you know, it you know, clamps onto the surface a little better, since these are pretty small openings. Like I said, there was a hole there. So, you know, you got to be careful, right, with them poking through, otherwise, you know, this door could catch on them. So when I set the door up like so, you know, it swings with no problem. It's just, this is broken, so it's not closing very good right now, which we're about to address. All right, guys, so I've got some of the two-part epoxy from JB Quick Weld. We're going to go ahead and take a toothpick and put it in here, some on the back side. You know, obviously here a bunch in the front. Try to put a little in the back right here too. And then basically take a couple of zip ties here and zip tie that tight. And then we'll let this thing set up for a good 24 hours and see how it does. On a good note, you know, the gasket here, I noticed when I set it in place, matches up really nice. So, you know, where the screws go, you know, and where the fasteners go through into here, from here into here, you know, all aligns really well. So that turned out, I can use that gasket at least. All right, guys, so we've got that all coated, you know, spread a bunch in between the crack. So we'll let this set up for about 24 hours. It says like 6 minutes, but there's no way. When I did that one, you know, it was still pretty pliable after a while, so I let it set up for a good week actually before I decided to drill it and do anything. So we'll let this set up for a while. I want to make sure this sets up really good before I attach it to the, you know, the metal housing. So we'll see how this looks in about 24 hours. So guys, if you notice, the repair turned out pretty darn good. It's pretty stiff. You know, this that JB Weld Quick Weld worked really well, it looks like. You know, if I really wanted to, I could probably sand this down a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. You know, so this stuff really worked pretty good. I'm really happy with it. So if you notice, I've got it sitting on top here. The gasket is all lined up. The holes actually are lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and screw the two halves together and then install a couple springs, and that about does it for now. And there is the final product. So finally reconditioned part of the air conditioning box. So got the one spring installed here, the other spring installed over there. Got all the fasteners put in. She's nice and tight. The gasket snugged up really good. So that wraps up the air conditioning repair. So I hope this helps you when you rip yours apart, tear it apart, and whatever repairs you need to do, what I had to do to mine to get it back into good shape. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll talk to you guys on the next upload.